Alright guys, we're back. Not a lot has been going on, so let's hop straight into the charts that have been very boring. So there's a lot to understand here though on what's going on exactly with the price. So like I said before, in the last few days, I told you guys this is gonna be the most important chart to look at, and by far this is the most important chart. You don't really need to look at the MACD. MACD is not super important. On the daily chart, you have, it looks like a cross coming up, a bullish cross, which is interesting and showing bullish. Basically, these lines are crossing. It's kind of bullish, but RSI is also kind of going down, so it's not really building momentum. What I'm looking at right now is, I already told you guys in the last video, I said, hey, this is the most important chart, and you can see on the daily that, I was given our basically lateral limits of where the price action was going to go up or down as the Bollinger Band, and also this EMA ribbon right here. And obviously, since the last video, that's obviously held through. And then if you go to the 4-hour chart, this is where I talked about a potential trading opportunity if you're potentially getting into positions or exiting positions. At the top of this channel right here, at the EMA right here, is where we came up. So this is literally everybody in the space was looking at these levels. So I mean, we hit this price perfectly, but I said if we're not above it, we're not bullish. We didn't go above it, we came back down. Same deal here. And right now, price action earlier today actually came all the way down here, but look where we're finding support again, at the Bollinger Bands, because like I said before, these are extremely important areas to be looking at. So literally, price action is 100% dependent right now on these charts. But as far as where we're going to go in the future, what's going on with this asset class, what am I doing, there's a lot of questions right now. And although this chart clearly depicts where the price has been lingering, because as far as I'm concerned, and it's pretty obvious to notice if you're like, okay, well, what's your opinion on crypto right now? Like, what's it doing? Where's it going in the midterm? Well, obviously, we're just consolidating in this range. So what I expect over the next about 2 weeks, and I'll get to that in a second, over the next 2 weeks, I expect us to, let me draw a line just so it's easier to look at. Horizontal line. I expect us to, I mean, this line pretty well describes coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down. But if you draw a box, it fills in even better. But essentially what we do is we come down. Sometimes we drop a little bit lower, sometimes we drop a little bit higher. Like I said, you just put a little box and it's going to get all these wicks picked up. But that's a pretty good median line. And then recently we've been range bound right here, but no matter how you look at it, I mean, if you take a small step back and come in with this perspective of, we basically are just going up and down, up and down, up and down. So what I've been doing, and I talked about this last video, how I've been making money last video trading, is I just buy right here when it's low and then sell when it's high. And it sounds too like obvious or whatever, but when price action is like this, you gotta take advantage of it. You gotta do this. I mean, even if you bought in right here, you still would have been able to sell right here. And it's not always the case, but with the price action being range bound right here, that's what I'm doing when I look at the midterm time frame. Now, I want to answer today. I want to answer all the questions about the future outlook, allocations, basically the biggest questions that people are going to have if they're exposed to this asset class or they want to get exposed to this asset class. I'll be answering the biggest questions. Starting with, I guess the biggest one is like, do you see this, do you see crypto or this asset or whatever, do you see this asset like going bullish mode? Like, do you see it passing 69,000? Do you see it continuing to go up? Because you were one of the first YouTubers to say 100,000 by the end of this year, and everybody else was saying no. Everybody else was saying much higher numbers, and then we had a bunch of crazy stuff happen, like this dump, and we didn't hit those numbers. But you've been one of the most accurate guys on YouTube. So going forward, what do you think is going to happen with the price action? This is what I think, and it's not really what I think. Like I said, I hate when people, if you say I think or stuff like that, that's when you get yourself into trouble. Not because you can be accurate or not predicting, but when it comes to finances, you have to be objective. You can't just say your stupid opinions, because honestly, nobody cares. So that, and I've always said that. And so what we've seen historically with the price action, because what I want to do is I want to bring up historical data of what happened in the past in situations like this, so we can figure out, okay, well, what happened in the future, what's going to happen in the future. And I'm not saying that this cluster right here is a what do you call it, a fractal. I'm not saying that this is a fractal. This does not have any relevance to this, any correlation, in my opinion. If anything, when I'm looking at the macro structure of crypto, which is when you talk about, is it going to go back up to 69K? Is it going to continue to be bullish? Are we going to 30K? That's when I look at the macro macro structure of the market right now. And I was one of the first people to point it out, but now everybody seems to want to point it out, that this is an uptrend right here. You constantly have lows, higher lows, and then highs, and then higher highs. And then you also have that on an even higher time frame, where essentially this is a high, and then this is an even higher high, and then these are lows, and these are even higher lows. So yeah, I get all that, and that's very relative. And what I want to point out, which again, I don't understand why I'm always the first person to point this out. I really don't understand it, but you're probably going to see this by a lot of big mainstream guys in a few weeks, is usually when it happens. So when we take this off and we just look at the price action of crypto, and we're on the 4-hour, this looks like a lot of gibberish. But what you have to understand is that we were in a downtrend right here. And let me explain that just a little bit. I'm going to get my drawing tool out so I can really give you a good understanding of what's going on right now. So essentially we had a high, lower high, lower high, lower high. So essentially the price action right here, if you're not looking at this data right here, what you have is a downtrend. Textbook downtrend on the 4-hour, and that would basically mean that on every single time frame we have a downtrend. Now you can see that this line right here where I drew this pink line, we broke that downtrend. I mean, you can draw a straight line and connect all of these points heading downwards to show the general direction of the trend. You can see no matter how you're going to draw it, we clearly broke that downtrend. That being said, we had a double top, we came back down, but even if we were to extend this downtrend line, if anything, we're bouncing off of it. See price action coming down. Even if it was to come down even more, we're essentially bouncing off of it. And then are we going to head higher, or are we going to break back below this downtrend? And when you look at it, this downwards movement right here, price action is not going to come in contact to it till at least 40,000. So this is really going to be, or as I was, 42,500, which is our local low. And it depends on which exchange you look at, because there's so much volatility in this move, and there's different liquidity through different exchanges. There's different amounts of slippage. So what I'm saying is that some exchanges price action dumped way too much because it was just such a sudden reaction, and the basically automated system that does all the regulating of buying and selling basically had a panic attack and dumped. And so we call this scam wick in the industry, but it just depends on which exchange you look at on how low it goes. Coinbase, while I hate the exchange, their graph tends to be very reliable, and 42,473 looks like a really good spot. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, first off, nobody's talking about this, but this downtrend was broken. Then we see a massive price explosion and celebratory, because not only was this price action, this downtrend busted, which is bullish, you also have a higher high right here, and then you have the resistance right here, essentially your previous resistance come down and tested as support. Now if you don't know what that means, basically that just means it's bullish. Basically this used to be the high, now it's the low. It's very bullish, and then obviously as we tested that and as we broke, we got this massive pump to basically validate. So we basically have everything you could want. We have the broken trend, you have the testing of resistance tested as support, and you have the volume. So you essentially have everything you could want. But this right here, this whole deal, this whole downtrend is basically invalidated by, you have this high right here, and then if you zoom in a little bit, all that matters right now in this pattern to me is that you have this high right here, and this high is slightly higher. So really what we're forming is an uptrend, and nobody's talking about this. So you have a high right here, so basically you could count this whole thing as basically this giant hump. Like you isolate this, and this is a high, and if you isolate this entire thing right here, this is the start to a higher high. It is a higher high. And as far as lows go, because you had this giant swing low right here, until the price action goes down to that 42,500 level, you don't have a lower low. So all you really need right here, because you have a high and you have a higher high, all you really need right here is for it to get range bound again, retest this, and then you have an even higher high. If price action breaks above 52,000, you have an even higher high. So you have a high, you have a higher high, and then you'd have a higher high. And this is a textbook uptrend on the 4-hour, and nobody's talking about this. That being said, where do I think Bitcoin's gonna go? Well, it's really simple, and I've spelled it out a few times in a few different episodes, and my opinions have not really changed at all. But there's been a lot of talk in the crypto space about different opinions, and I just want to talk about what everybody else is saying, and then give you the facts, and then obviously I'll show you what I'm doing. So the first question that I briefly touched on was, are we going to 80,000, 70,000, whatever, because that's really what people want to know is, are we still in a bull run, and how's crypto's future outlook? The way that I see it, and again, I'm not opinionated, we have moved like this quite a bit. So again, the way that I see it, you use your measuring tool. You measure from the start of this move to the end of this move, and it's 63 days. You can see that right there. So if you look at the measuring tool, that's 63 days. Now this is extremely important. This is extremely important. I don't know if it got that right. All right, so I'm gonna do another measured from right here to right here. Very boring price action, lasted 52 days before we moved up. This top area right here where we essentially went sideways. You can measure it from right here. This is kind of exciting to me. I'm going to measure it from right here all the way to right here. That's 47 days. My point here is that it's normal for Bitcoin to consolidate, and if we use the measuring tool and we measure, right now, currently, we're only at 31 days. Let me make sure we're on the daily. It might even be a lot less. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah, 31 days. So when you look at the consolidation of cryptocurrency, here you can see a massive amount of consolidation. But to make an argument, that's 66 days right there. But when you go back and you look at the price action, and it doesn't really matter where, and yeah, we have this little hump right here. But when you go back and you look at the price action, Bitcoin tends to consolidate quite a bit unless it's in an extremely bullish state. So usually what happens is you have consolidation, and we were having this downtrend, and then you have the break of this downtrend, and price starts to go up. And from what I've seen, looking at the graph, it's about 60 days. But what I want to bring up is, because I don't want to be arbitrary, I don't want to be subjective in my data. And so with that being said, I'm going to bring back on the... I guess I don't even really need it. So check this out. Essentially, the story was, we hit 69,000. Then, obviously, we went down. There's some selling pressure, whatever. But I am going to bring the EMA ribbons back on. And as soon as we went below the EMA ribbons, we've basically been on the daily for however long. We've just been under these EMA ribbons on the daily, and that's been the story. Now, nobody predicted, there was not a single person in the entire space, including myself, which actually ruined my 100% credibility. I used to be 100% right on anything I'd ever said on crypto. I was 100% right up until this dump, so very irritating for me. But my point being that nobody in the entire crypto space that's public was right, had no idea about this, because nobody except for the whale that was dumping knew that this was going to be happening. Anyways, that being said, price action's been below this EMA ribbon on the daily. As soon as we dumped and we recovered it a little bit, we're still having essentially the same story of same sideways action. That being said, if that makes sense, that essentially we hit 69,000 and we've basically been going sideways under this EMA ribbon, boringness. That being said, which is normal for crypto to do, it hits new all-time highs, it goes sideways, and then it breaks the downtrend and continues up. Okay, that being said, let's measure, not taking this black moon, blue moon event into consideration. That puts us at 48 days. The average amount of time for consolidation is about 52. 52 days is about the average for Bitcoin to consolidate after breaking an all-time high before trending higher. So if you just look at the historical data, but don't get me wrong, I'm not saying in 14 days. What I am saying is that sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but nobody really knows. But historically, when we look back and then come out with the data, what we can say best is that in 14 days, we are most likely going to be breaking this downtrend, heading higher, and continuing up. So what's my opinion? Obviously my opinion is that we're still in a bull run. Obviously, my opinion is that we're going to continue to trade sideways probably for the next 2 weeks. Obviously, my opinion is, let's measure this. Because imagine you're back here. This was very boring. It's 25 days, and this is right after it broke all-time highs. This right here, very boring. Same deal, probably even longer. I think we measured this earlier. Yeah. Oh, this is only 24. I don't know. Damn, that's a good example. Oh, it's because I zoomed in so much. This is a good example. $64. Depending on how you look at it, it's about 64. But obviously there's shorter and obviously there's longer. This we went sideways on. You're not really making any gains here. That's 85. But I've done the back testing. I did it a little bit earlier with you guys. Like I said, it's about 52. We spend about 2 months. A little less than 2 months on average, consolidating, and it really depends on how bullish of sentiment the market is. Sometimes when the market's really bullish, we just blast off, kind of like what we saw right here. But obviously we blasted off too early because we came back down. That being said, how do I know that we're gonna be in a bull market? Well, everybody's really having doubts right now. But what I can say is that fundamentally, when you look at the halving, when you look at everything fundamentally on chain with Bitcoin's becoming scarcer. There's more and more buying pressure because essentially nobody's selling. It's becoming scarcer because there's not any more being produced. They're not ramping up production. We're on the same halving cycle that we've been on since Bitcoin's been in this bull run. And because nobody's selling, you don't have the 2017 essentially where everybody bought in at 1,000 and everybody's dumping the price because they basically 20x'd their money. Nobody thinks Bitcoin at these prices is the top. So nobody's selling. You have the same supply level. You have everybody holding. But you have increasing amount of demand. So mathematically, from an on-chain metric, no matter what on-chain metric you're looking at, all the ones that I've seen, all the valuable ones, show that we should be going higher. Okay, on-chain technicals, we're obviously in an uptrend, blah, blah, blah. And then historically, back testing, earlier this year we hit 65,000, came down to 30,000, and then set a new all-time high. That doesn't happen if you're in a bear market. You don't come down and then set a new all-time high in a bear market. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. So essentially what you could be looking at is a 2017 scenario, but if Bitcoin's going to recover from 30K with literally no support, look how much support there is. There's literally no price action down there. It literally, what you're looking at is, and I actually predicted that it was going to go down to 30K. What you're looking at is the measured move of this head and shoulders pattern perfectly playing out, catching, and then continuing up. That is ridiculously bullish, and we've had a full recovery from that scenario. So what you have right here with the price action is you have a double top. You have the measured move of that playing out, because nobody could, on the exchanges, nothing could handle the amount of Bitcoin that was dumped. It flooded the system and crashed everything. But as soon as we recovered, literally in hours, we consolidated right at the measured move. So let me just draw this out a little bit clearer in case it's hard for somebody to see. So this right here is one top, and then this right here is another top. So this is a top. You can see that you can group all this together. That's a top. And then this right here, that's all a top. So that's called a double top. You can look it up, and it's a chart formation. And so what you do with this chart formation is you take your drawing tool and you put it at the top right here of the formation, and then you put it at the bottom of what's called the neckline, which is going to be this area right here. And then you take your measuring tool and you put it right at the neckline. You can see price action has been perfectly consolidating and actually hit this level perfectly right here. Right here, you can see it literally hit it perfectly. But no matter how you look at this is a double top that played out. Well, when you go back and historically look, this was a head and shoulders. Measure the same thing, measured move, came down to that measured move, consolidated down a little bit, and then broke up. So essentially in my book, we're looking at the same thing. We're looking at a head and shoulder, or not as I was, double top. Last one was head and shoulders. Double top, played out, and you say, well, there's all this slippage right here. That's because there was a massive dump on the price, and we call that a scam wick. So a scam wick's when the exchanges are overloaded so much that the price unrealistically comes down lower than what it should have been. And so we call that a scam wick. We take that out of the chart because the system was essentially overloaded. Nobody really wanted the price to go down that low that quick. That being said, you take the scam wick out and you're looking at a perfect measured move. A little bit of a downtrend, comes down a little bit more. Like I said before, give it about 2 weeks. Break the EMA ribbon. And then we'll head higher. And how do we know this? We don't know this, but if the price action was able to recover here, I mean, everybody thought this was a bear market right here. Price action was able to recover here. I think you'll be able to recover here. And the only thing that I'm looking at right now that's really relevant to me. Let's see, horizontal line. As soon as we break this level, if we do, I'm not saying that we will, but let's say worst case scenario, play devil's advocate. If we break this level, obviously that's horrific. That's when I'd be closing trades right here, because I mean, we're dangerously close to invalidating this entire uptrend right here, which is insane. And then the same token, this level right here, as soon as we break that, we're bullish. Let me see. As soon as we break this, we're bullish. And so what I'm looking at is I'm saying, okay, we break this, I'm buying. If we close candles above, it's not a fake out, we actually break this level, I'm buying. As far as my positions go, I'm opening new positions, adding more, accumulating. And then likewise, if we go below this level, I'm selling my trading positions, closing my trading positions, my leverage positions. But as far as I'm concerned, if we don't break either one of these, if we continue to go sideways for the next 2 weeks, every time it comes down here, it tends to go back up. Every time it goes back up, it tends to come back down. And so I'm buying right here, selling right here, buying right here, selling right here, buying right here, selling right here. And that's with my trading account. So That's what I'm doing right now. And it's been working out pretty well for me. I'm down a little bit in a small trade, but I just opened it up yesterday. I'm going to be patient. I'm sure it'll go back up. But I've been opening and closing a massive amount of trades. I already made my money back. I would lose this entire trade and still be break even. Not that I lose trades. I've never lost a trade. I can't believe I did not get liquidated right here. That is absolutely mind-boggling. The exchange literally considered this a scam wick and did not liquidate me. And I was able to add more margin to my account. Ridiculous. That being said, I've never lost a trade, which is ridiculous. But that's what I'm playing this entire thing. And I mean, there's always arguments to be made, but I've already brought to your attention the most of it. On the daily, this is the macro structure. It's an uptrend, and it's not been integrally broken. We've seen recoveries that we shouldn't have seen in the past, or should we have, because this was just the measured move of a head and shoulders. That being said, scared money doesn't make money. I don't see another asset class that's gonna give you returns even close to what crypto will give you. That being said, the stock market has actually, over the last 3 or 4 days, the stock market has actually been performing better than crypto. Stock market's been up over the last 3 or 4 days. Crypto's been down. Crypto and the stock market having a massive correlation, which means usually when when the stock market goes up, usually cryptocurrency goes up. So the fact that cryptocurrency went down and the stock market went up, that's very, very rare occurrence. And the fact that the stock market is continuing to be bullish and crypto is bearish, you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe I should go into the stock market. But let me tell you, I have a pretty good investing track record. Apparently one of the best. And what I've noticed with a lot of people that are horrible investors, absolutely terrible, is they chase gains. And what I mean by that is that they'll go and they'll say, oh, this stock is doing really good. Oh, this cryptocurrency is doing really good. And, maybe they're holding Cardano right now. And they're saying, oh, Cardano is not doing too well, but oh, this coin Matic is doing super well. So they sell their Cardano, put it into Matic. Well, fast forward to see the results. 2 weeks later, Cardano starts pumping, Matic starts correcting, which means it starts going down, and then they swap over and they're like, oh, I had it right to begin with. Then they put their money into Cardano, and then Cardano continues to go sideways, and Matic starts pumping again. And that's called chasing gains. And I can't guarantee anything, and this isn't financial advice. The stock market has never outperformed Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, when you give it any time frame. Right now, since I got in really heavy at 10,000, earlier we were up 600 and whatever percent. The stock market has returned on its best stocks that I was holding at 1.400%. But that was when Bitcoin was back at $3,000, back when there was that stock market crash. Cryptocurrency in general has outperformed the stock market. And my opinions are always based off of historical data. Nobody cares about what you think. My personal opinion is that if you go into the stock market, you say I'm done with crypto, that you're gonna be chasing gains. And cryptocurrency, give it some time, because it always does its thing before it pumps. Give it some time. It will outperform the stock market like it always has. I mean, think about it. It's up 9 million %. Bitcoin's up 9 million %. It used to be less than a penny to buy a single Bitcoin. and that costs more than it's about the same price as a Maserati per coin. So obviously with diminishing returns. But the last thing that I'm going to leave you with, if you've been sticking around for this long, the last thing I'm going to leave you with is while there are diminishing returns on cryptocurrency, there's a bunch of fundamentals that, let's see, Bitcoin, rainbow chart. There's a lot of fundamentals to where fundamental technical indicators to where if Bitcoin continues to go sideways and doesn't just blast off like we were expecting at the end of the year, every single day that happens, every single time that the price action continues to basically trade sideways, be boring or whatever, it makes Bitcoin more valuable because you have the price action going sideways, you have the demand staying the same, and you have the supply continuing to shrink. And meanwhile, is basically validating the price, because 2 years ago we weren't this high at $65,000. So the RSI, the relative strength index, only gets validated when you hold levels. So us constantly holding $47,000 as I was $47,000, that validates that price, and it makes it a lot easier for Bitcoin to run up higher without the RSI getting overheated. That being said, the Bitcoin rainbow chart is probably the best explanation visually of explaining what I'm talking about right now. So right now you have Bitcoin in what's called the HODL zone, right next to still cheap. So in between HODL and still cheap. And this graph has been pretty great at telling you when to buy and sell Bitcoin. It's not perfect though. I'm just making a point. You have this area right here. Is it a bubble? And then historically, seriously sell is a pretty good point historically to sell. So let's say we give it some time. Let's say over the next 2 weeks it breaks out, and then let's say we have a run up over the next few months, and then seriously sell turns from, let's say we would have topped out at the end of this year, would have been 125,000, what most people were predicting. Now we give it a few more months and it's closer to 200,000 as the price. So the point is that the longer that it consolidates, the more juice it has to run up, the more momentum it has to run up. And basically, I guess looking at 2013 versus 2017 is a perfect way of describing it. If you have this massive parabolic run up, that's not sustainable. So you see correction. Not sustainable. So you see correction. But as you start to have a run up that's more less gradual, it's more sustainable. So you can run up higher. You see right here, you can run up higher without having a massive blow off top, like you see right here. No massive blow off top. And so that being said, that's where I'm going to end this video, is that it's not, it's still going to be 100,000. Most people, no matter how they look at it, if it continues to trade sideways and the demand continues to grow because of innovations and hype and awareness through things like NFTs, non-fungible tokens, that validates a higher price for crypto in the future, and it gives even more validation that the price is going to be higher than the stock market, that is going to continue to outreturn a asset class. And so while it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, in my mind, from historical data, to go and sell cryptocurrency for something like real estate right now, because again, it's chasing gains. I see it with the worst of the investors. They always do it. They always chase the gains. They always say, oh, the real estate market is the place to be right now. The crypto market, while it may not be the place to be right now, that's probably a good thing. That probably means that next year we could see $200,000 Bitcoin if, we have a boring year. That being said, that's the end of this video. And hopefully you learned a lot if you stayed till the end. And if you liked it, definitely subscribe, because I'm going to continue updating you guys on what's going on with this crypto deal.